Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Mural Backstage Pass. My name is Mark Tippin. I'm the head of services with Mural. My co-host is Haley Temple, services lead. And for the next 60 minutes, we're going to take you behind the scenes of a teamwork session. We encourage you to use the chat. If you haven't already, go ahead and find the chat button. Say hello. Let us know where you're dialing in from. We'll do the same on the panel. And we also encourage you to use the QA as we go to ask your questions. So chat is for creating community, talking with each other, sharing links. We'll drop some links in there also as we go. And QA is where we're going to be looking if questions come up that we can answer in real time during the show. So our goal is to help you gain confidence in using Mural in a variety of use cases. With Mural Backstage Pass, we're just broadcasting this work as it happens. It's never scripted, maybe lightly designed with a mural or something, but we hope that this inspires you to use your facilitation superpowers in new ways with your team. To get the most from today's session, Haley and I might pause here and there to draw attention to methodologies or certain Mural features, or if we notice a really good remote collaboration practice, we might call that out. We have some new folks joining us today, always exciting. I'm going to turn it over to Haley.
Yeah.
Haley, all right.
Yeah. I'll kick it off. So yeah, thanks, Mark. And yeah, if you are new, welcome to Backstage Pass. And if you are an old friend, welcome back. So every week we choose a new topic for our Backstage Pass sessions. And today we are talking about feedback and templates. Those are kind of our two biggies for today. So the challenge that we want to assess today is, I think it's kind of twofold. I added this one, but there's kind of two. Mural imagination workers, and if you're using Mural, that's you. They need a way to share repeatable methods and activities within and even across organizations, especially if you are a consultant. You might be using the same method over and over again with different clients. And so we have templates that exist in Mural, or you might be making your own templates. And our wonderful teammate Amelia has been working on guidelines and a proposal for guidelines and is asking us for feedback from the team. And of course, we're going to do some of that feedback real time today, but we also realize we're a global team. We don't necessarily have time to always be in meetings. So we also want to give advice and set up a mural for asynchronous or not in real time, alone time feedback as well. So success for today means that we are able to give feedback to Amelia about her guidelines for creating awesome templates. And later in this session, be prepared because a few of you will also be able to join and give feedback in real time with us. I know a lot of people love coming into this mural and participating in Backstage Pass, so we want to make that happen. And we hope that you guys in the audience learn how to use Mural to get feedback. And that could be real-time feedback or alone time feedback or asynchronous feedback. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, sweet. So I'm going to pass it over to Amelia. And Amelia, let me also make you guys facilitators in this mural before I forget, so that you guys can use the timer function and can summon us and things like that. And Daniela, I'm going to have you not be a facilitator right now, not to count you out, but you're just kind of cruising along with us today, so I don't want to overwhelm you. Daniela's new to Mural, so she's representing one of a fresh face and someone new to the tool, which is wonderful. So, all right, Amelia, I'm going to follow you. Tell us a little bit about what our scenario is.
Yeah, thank you. So there are a lot of situations where we have facilitators or people within organizations that are leading different types of methods and activities, and we want to try to make these methods and processes available to the whole company so that everyone can practice these methods. And sometimes I also work with a lot of customers that might have methods or processes that they're already doing offline, either using whiteboards or pen and paper, and they need a way to quickly bring these methods online. So when doing this, they can create a new Mural template reflecting these methods, and we want to try to put together an easier way, some guidelines for people to do so. So the purpose of this guidelines, so what we hope that these guidelines can help us achieve as well, is on one hand to understand our standards. When we publish templates in the global template library within the product, all the templates that you can see within the template section of the software, we would like to have a way to make sure that they're not necessarily exactly the same, but more or less consistent. And we also want to try to see if we can have them follow the Mural brand voice, to be playful, to inspire imagination workers, and try to save time reworking content by setting clear expectations up front. Because when we receive these templates, we need to review them before publishing them. And the less revisions or updates that needs to be done, the better. We can get the templates out quicker. So I've done some work research as well. Feel free to jump in as well, Hailey, if you see anything I should add. So I've done some research. This is one of the templates that a lot of my customers have told me that they use and they like. It's a template that they didn't have to customize a lot before using it. So it seems like this template was pretty well designed so that they could use it right away. And some of the things that I noticed that this template had when I went over it was that it has an intro to the template, an intro to the method. It has an example of when you would use this template, in which situation it might help you. It also indicates how many people would participate in the session, how much time you need for it, also what the difficulty level of it is. It has a list of resources and links if you want to learn more. The flow is also pretty clear. It has numbers for each step so that you can easily see where to start and where to go next. It even has time indications for each step so that you know how long time you should give people to think individually and how long time you would need to share out. It has instructions, both instructions that you give to the participants, but also instructions that might be a bit more specific for the facilitator, with tips on how you could facilitate and introduce the activity to your team. And there are also some empty sticky notes over here. I thought it was interesting to note that the person who designed this template also added some kind of placeholder stickies to make it really clear what type of content the person is expected to add and where as well when they record their answers.
Okay. This is helpful. I'm just kind of capturing yellow sticky notes up top of like just what I'm hearing from you, but going through this kind of at a higher level is it's saving a value as of templates. It's saving me time preparing for meetings. Maybe it's helping me learn a new method. It's showing a best practice for collaboration. And there is this play between a guide and then the actual work space as well. So I imagine with the facilitator instructions, I can come in and look at this and then before my meeting delete this stuff, right? Like that's the expectation.
Exactly. Or put
not.
them in the outline or somewhere where the users couldn't see them as clearly.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and so I know if we're thinking about this template, and I know we have these guidelines that we're going to go through in terms of your proposal for a good template. Before we do that, I want to ask Mark, because Mark is our Luma certified instructor and has an awesome design critique method that he uses for critiques like this. So Amelia, before I have you go through your proposal, Mark, why don't you take us through what does a good, quote unquote, or helpful design critique, what does that involve?
Sure, you bet. If you
I'm gonna
follow me
follow
for a
you.
second, yeah, perfect. So I'm going to do a little plug here. Our Luma Institute, they're one of our partners. As you mentioned, I teach these methods, and there's one in particular that I think is amazing, and it's a method for doing a critique. You can find out more about it at Luma Institute and Luma Workplace, their online learning. What I'm showing here is actually, this is an artifact, an actual picture of the thing I typically draw when I'm doing workshops. And before I read through this, I just want to point out that there's a particular order, and if you're familiar with some of the other methodologies like Rose, Thorn, Bud, you'll notice that we have colored stickies for steps 4, 5, and 6. And in a sense, it's a way to kind of facilitate feedback in terms of what's working well, what maybe isn't working, and where some opportunities are. And the thing I just want to mention is you do this in this order because as humans, it's very easy for us to focus on the negative stuff right away. Like so how long do we dwell on things that were amazing? Right. If you have something cool happens in your life, you dwell on it for a moment or two and then you're back into life. But how long do we anguish over that embarrassing thing that happened in fourth grade that I'll never get over? That, we just dwell on that stuff forever. So the reason why you do it in this order is after someone presents an idea, you want to invite and make sure that at least you hear the stuff that was good about it while people can remember the positive things. Because if you start with negative, it's really hard to get back to the positive stuff. So anyway, so what this is kind of the language that also invites really good psychological safety and trust, and it presents an idea not with any force or I'm going to hate you if you don't like this. It really frames it in one, letting people know what was the challenge, right? You always got to start with what was the outcome, what was the thing you were actually trying to solve by having a template. And then you let people know, okay, so this was about trying to get this particular outcome. Okay, so I know where you're trying to go. And you just say, one of the ideas we had was, and you show whatever it is, your prototype, your template, or whatever. You're not saying this is the only idea. I'm not saying the future of the company's writing on this thing. You're just saying one of our ideas was this. And then you present your idea. Before you go to feedback, you want to make sure you ask clarifying questions. So you pause and say, was there anything about what I said that just was unclear? You're not asking for the critique yet. You're just saying, maybe I didn't express it well, or maybe when I said blue, you didn't know if I meant the color or the emotional state. And so people might need to just clarify some things. And once you do that, then you move into asking things and you follow it in this order. And I recommend we do it this way as well. So first of all, what'd you like about it? Right. So and the cool thing about Mural is we could actually place the rose colored sticky note feedback right on the template, right? So you can say, I liked this and put it right where that part of the canvas is. If you have general comments, overall comments about it, you can also just kind of put them around the border of the thing or whatever, whatever protocol you want to use. Then you frame the negative feedback or the cool feedback in terms of what are some challenges we might face, right? So you're inviting people in to imagine what if they use this template and what do they foresee might happen, and you get it captured with the blue color, thorn colored sticky notes, and then you invite them to think about, well, what might we build on, right? So what's something that's there that we might need to advance a little bit, and this language really helps you get these 3 different types of information that are equally valuable. But sometimes if you just present an idea and you don't have any order to capturing these things, you miss out on opportunities for yes and for a particular flow around the positive stuff to hear, was that just this one person or were there multiple people that say, yes, I heard that too, I saw that too, right? And the same with the negative. So you get some weight balancing and everything. And then at the end, feedback is a gift. We always say that. Haley and I say that every time. At the end of every one of these sessions, feedback is a gift. And the reason why you're asking for feedback is to improve your idea. And that's the nature. So you want to thank people at the end of it. So anyway, there's the protocol. I suggest we try and leverage that for our real-time feedback and then think about how might we do it for asynchronous feedback.
I'm on mute. Cool. All right, here we go.
It's like
just come back and sing if I'm
and
on
the
mute.
pregnant pause. It's like
Yep. Sorry.
mic drop.
Okay, so thanks, Mark. I think a lot of people are loving this format for feedback. So you're getting lots of love there. So what I'm going to do, and thank you for setting that up, because I think you're talking about the structure that we're going to do, and I want to make sure that we set up our audience for success when they come into this space. So maybe what I'm going to do is, yeah, thank you. Amelia, I'm going to have you walk through again the, hold on here. I'm thinking out loud. So Amelia's going to go through the challenge that she's solving, and then we're going to give her 2 minutes to give a high level flow or overview of what we are going to be giving feedback about. I know there's a lot here, Amelia, but it's okay, because I think we will use the feedback time for people to read through and give feedback. And what I'm thinking about doing, Mark, is breaking these questions, what templates do we publish? Why create a template, into different sections, so that when people join the mural, they can look at it section by section and do the rose, thorn, buds by each section.
Sounds good. So
I'm actually going to make it like a really big space, because we have a lot of people super excited to come in here, which is great, right? But just want to make sure we have enough working space.
Yeah, the idea of the outline, these three that go on the side, these three.
Oh, sorry, the areas.
So these three over here, these are kind of other things. They're not part of the actual, it's building blocks in the guide, but they're separate from the rest. So for the chronology of the guide, it might be useful to keep it as a line, because that's the way you would kind of read the page from top to bottom.
Got it. Okay. So is it okay that I'm moving this stuff kind of like wider, but still keeping it in a flow?
Yeah.
Or am I breaking it? Okay.
No, that's fine.
All right, cool. Then Amelia, what I'm going to do is hand it over to you. I'm going to give, I'm going to use a timer to give you 2 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is follow you so that I'm seeing what you're seeing. So, ready? And go. 2 minutes. Walk us through.
Right. So this is an idea for a guide. I'm imagining that it would be maybe a web page, kind of like it could be a page in our help center, or it could be an individual page on our website with guidelines that people can look at as a help when they design and create their own templates. So one of the first things I thought might be good is kind of an introduction that introduces anyone who's new to templates, who doesn't know what a template is. It would give them some background on why would you create a template. And this would, for example, be to save time planning. It could be to run more effective meetings, and it could also be to repeat tested methods.
Okay.
Then it would probably also be useful to have a quick introduction or quick overview of how to use the templates. For example, where in the product you would find them, where you could see other templates, but also how you could publish and edit templates on your own if you want to do so. Maybe I should say publish and edit them. Publish, costume, use, and edit them. I think that's good. Then I think the next part is more around the templates that we publish. We have a landing page on the Mural website where we publish templates from expert consultants and partners that we're working with. And we often receive requests or questions from people who would like to see their templates to being published on this page as well. So I thought it might also be good to include a couple of kind of guidelines on what types of templates we do publish. This could also be helpful for us internally when we review the request for new templates that we receive. This could help us define which templates we should publish in our template library and which ones might be too specific. So we want things that are relevant for people, that are educational, inspirational, methods that address common needs. We want the authors to be professional, and that the template has been used, that there's a tested version of it available where we can see how it's been used. And then finally, the largest section is about how to lay out your mural. And this includes a lot of tips on things to include, such as a title, an introduction to the template, but also guidelines around how the usability of the template. It should have a clear flow with clear instructions, enough space for each activity. And here we can also link to other resources. We have a video tutorial, for example, with tips on how to design and lay out your mural, with tips such as how you define how much space you need for each activity. But then also, it's always nice, as we pointed out in the example of a good template, examples of how you should complete the activities. For example, empty placeholder stickies that shows where you should input your answers to the questions. It could also be, we could have stickies with the start of sentences that shows how you should formulate the answers. We also think the templates should be adaptable, easy to rearrange and update, universal, not too many logos. If you're using it in your own session, you should be screaming.
I'm going to pause you there. I don't mean to cut you off, but also I want to make sure that we don't get too in the weeds so that the team can, it's helpful to get the overview, but people can come in and review as well. But these are the three components you want feedback on, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you for walking through the high level. I'm going to actually move these over here and give us more space. So any clarifying questions, Mark, or anything that you're seeing in the chat?
No, just a lot of people that eager to join in and help out. Some
Sweet.
Questions about critique, and some people say like, "Ooh, that has a negative connotation sometimes," and even feedback as well. So I think really changing that perception that feedback is a gift, and that having that structure, I think, can really help in creating order when you're getting this stuff. So mostly it's around the people are excited to see like how can we participate and actually have something that is often seen as such a negative thing become a very kind of source of abundance and possibility when you're giving these gifts to someone to help them improve their idea.
Right. Awesome. No, that's a whole nother Backstage Pass we could unpack, yeah. Right? Yeah. So Amelia and Mark and Daniela and team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, then if you can help me kind of duplicate these sticky notes around the different areas where we're going to be asking for feedback. So that way, when we invite people into the space, they have something already available to start providing that feedback. And then what I'm going to do is get the anonymous link. And so the people who responded yes, that you want to participate, I am going to invite you in to, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to do this, but you're going to get a private message.
I would like to add something maybe for people that are new to Mural.
Yeah, please.
If you double click under a certain color sticky note, you'll automatically get the same color sticky note. So that might be helpful to know when you're providing your feedback.
Great tip. Thank you, Daniela. Honestly, we appreciate the things that we take for granted and say like, oh yeah, of course. That's
Yes, if we run out of pink sticky notes, for example, or blue ones, you can always double click add more.
So, and Lila asked, how am I going to invite you in? So yeah, thank you for keeping us honest. How are we going to do this? So I use the click to share button. I'm using the anonymous link because that way people don't have to worry about signing in. and then I'm actually using the Zoom chat to invite people in. So they're getting private, rather than usually we just give the link to everybody and it gets a little bit crazy. But today I wanted to say, all right, well, I just want to give certain people who are comfortable and confident and want to practice the space to do it. So
sounds good.
Sorry, Haley, to understand how this is organized. So you have the different titles, like why create a template, and the 3 purple sticky notes, and that's what we're providing feedback on.
Yeah. So for example, the you would use the why create the sticky. You would use these sticky notes around the why create a template to give feedback about what Amelia has already shared. As like, this is her proposal for, why should somebody create a template? When is it a good time to do that? And so people might say, I really, for example, it really does help me save time planning, but making a template in terms of a process is maybe challenging, or we don't have great instructions on how to do that, or something like that.
And are we expected to provide one of each, like rose, thorn, bud, for each one of the items?
Mark, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so I think it's the way this is unfolding is almost it's simultaneous or almost asynchronous in the way we're getting feedback from the audience.
Yeah.
I would say if I were to actually facilitate this critique myself, I would do what you're doing, Haley, is like I would zoom in around. Okay, so let's start with why create a template.
Mm-hmm.
I would say what are some of the things that that we like about the items that we have here? Is there something in particular about this, the rationale that we like? And I would have people verbalize and then capture in notes and then share and move it if it stacks up related to, say, save time planning. You'd say, yes, I agree, blah blah, that for this reason or that reason. And then once it's kind of calmed down, then I would verbally direct people, okay, so what are some of the things about this that we think are not going to work, and then maybe what are some things that are missing or that we could build on. And I would verbally orchestrate that for the panelists, for the people that have video and audio access. And then that also kind of helps people that have joined virtually that we've promoted be able to kind of participate and be thinking and listening about the positive, the roses, thorns, and buds in that order. And the other comment I made is there are lots of people in the audience that are very interested in giving feedback too, but if we're kind of panning and zooming and we're moving all around the board, then they can't actually see what we're focused on. So really, as a facilitation tip, like focusing on each one of these at a time helps kind of not only focus the people that are participating verbally and here, but also the people that are following along in the chat. I can be grabbing and adding stuff in as we go.
Why don't we do that then? Let's take some time, because to go through each section briefly, and maybe I'll set a timer for ourselves to go through and audibly give feedback, or Mark, and then we can go through the 3 sections. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds good. I would just let's so the brief has been delivered. The way it typically works is the big picture. We kind of got the big picture of what Amelia's trying to talk about and capture, and she's presenting these purple stickies and orange titles as kind of a prototype of what she thinks is a complete set of requirements for a program around templates. And so what we're providing feedback on here is on each one of these elements we're looking at. So with, for now, why create a template is kind of the rationale about what is the job to be done of a template. Do we think we've fully captured everything we need about the motivations behind it? And we have that discussion and look for gaps or things that might be missing. And then you would move to another area and kind of facilitate it that way.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was in Bali
Yeah,
looking
that's
at
fine.
looking at the chat and trying to coordinate stuff. But
Or so I can't. So if you want, here, why don't I facilitate it so I
Please
can
do.
summon? Yeah, here we go. All right. So we're going to start way out here. Looks like we've already got some inertia here. So I'm going to zoom in here. Why create a template? Okay, so someone who had some positive feedback on the panelist. Why don't you call out one of the things that you mentioned?
Yeah, I can start. So I think it's a reason I create templates is because I like to, if I am going to reuse something, it does save me a lot of time to make something and have it there so I can easily reference it. And then I kind of use it as I'll just pause there.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
pause.
Okay, cool. So that's some positive. Someone else who thinks that, and again, this is Amelia's 3 purple notes are what she believes constitute the top or the most important rationales about why people need to create templates. So we have some agreement around saving the time and planning and preparation. Any other kind of positive feedback from Daniela or anyone else?
Here, what I said here is that using it on the same page and keeps them focused on the task being done. And at the same time, I think it creates a healthy culture as a team to enforce those processes. So everybody is like very active on the meetings.
Okay, cool. Why don't we move into some of the cool feedback, right? The stuff where we think there might be some challenges that we're going to run into with, with these 3 notes as stated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking at the ones that people have typed in as well to see if I can plus one them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, running more effective meetings. I agree that I don't know if a template necessarily means that a meeting itself is going to be run more effectively. Maybe planning.
No, and I see that now as well. I was looking at the feedback people gave on why they use templates, and this was the top 2, or the second most common one that people stated. But meetings is probably 2. Maybe it could be something more open, like project or sessions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As far as a problem area or improvement area, I see that for a template to work, it needs to be facilitated correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm noticing I'm going to start doing a little affinity clustering here by themes. Because there's, the thing that is interesting about feedback is you can have some people commenting on one aspect both in a positive and a negative way. Like there's an aspect of a negative here where some people, it might feel repetitive, right? If you use the same template all the time, that's going to get kind of boring. Well, that's an interesting counterbalance to people saying, "Oh, well, I love the reliable cadence that's created by repetition," right? So how do you create the repetition without it feeling repetitive and boring, right? So this is, an interesting way. To look at feedback in the context of both positive and negative, but it's thematic, right? So I would invite people that are helping us in the mural, if you see natural affinities between feedback, I would begin to kind of cluster them by location.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also part of the gift, is not just spouting out a bunch of feedback, but then when we start seeing patterns emerge in the feedback that we're giving, and helping shape and do sense making out of all of this feedback we're getting, so we can start to see trends, patterns, and then that's where you actually get the insights, right? The things where you can actually innovate in the methodology around creating templates or whatever your challenge is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seeing some examples like the repetition. Some people say it's a good thing. To a certain point, it could be like too much of a good thing, kind of.
That's right. Okay, so I'm gonna pause here. I'm gonna move over. I'll ask to be far. Actually, I'll just summon you and say, okay. So let's now take a look at how to use templates, right? So in Amelia's brief, she covered two things. You need to know, in order to use them, you need to know where to find them in the product, and you need to know how to publish and edit them, right? So looking for feedback now, you know, again, we're looking at the criteria, the motivation, as these two purple notes. What are some things where we're in alignment? Where we're thinking, we like about what's being said here. And I'm guessing, this isn't, it's not rocket science. You can go like, yep, you got to know where to find them in order to use them, right? That, it seems
Right.
obvious, but just,
So how to use templates, where to find them in the
And
product.
it's also great to get feedback on this before I sit down and actually write all this content. So I know what the actual bullet points, what the questions have people have before.
Yeah.
And right away, I see the anonymous green kitty cat is, has some useful feedback there. It's like, the side panel, it's overwhelming, complex template.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you actually find stuff in there? So, while we are in agreement that they've got to be found, even the feedback, to the product team and to, this starts affecting the whole customer experience about how do we sort them? How do we find them? Can I have my favorites? That might be a bud, right? Some untapped potential there is,
And I
wouldn't it
think
be great if,
also it would be so, and two things that are like kind of greens, not pinks, but it would be really nice to either like have Mural know what I'm trying to build and then say, like, it looks like you're building a rose thorn bud. Like we have a template for that.
The wizard.
That'd be so nice. Because sometimes I also think that in terms of user experience, I honestly gravitate more towards building my own stuff from scratch versus looking in the templates to start. And I don't know if that's could be changed with UX or that could be changed just on like a journey we teach. But that's an initial I wish, or maybe cool feed. That's I guess blue.
That's right. Well, I'm wondering, I'm going to right click and try and see who. So Anonymous Rabbit added one that is a thorn. It's some challenges we might run into, and it just says publish, edit, and share. But I was wondering if there's a way for Anonymous Rabbit to illuminate on that a little bit in the chat, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where, like in a live session, the benefit is being able to, when you're getting a critique, it's also important that you don't get defensive, right? You don't say, "Oh, I was totally going to do that. I just didn't have time," or you start defending, and because it saps the energy, it saps the flow of people actually giving you feedback when you get defensive. But what is helpful is if you can just say, "Can you say more? Can you say more about?" and help guide it until perfect. Okay, outside of your own workspace.
Yeah.
Huge cross workspace search. Gotta have it.
Yes.
But also, how do you get the link to share the template with anyone outside of the workspace as well?
Yeah, that's
It
right.
might not be obvious.
That's right.
For new users.
Yeah, and there, it does get tricky. There's some, there are reasons why we have a certain level of complexity in the product. It's because there are some teams in financial institutions and in government agencies that are using this, and you don't want to accidentally put a visualization of your strategic intent where just anyone in the world can get to it, right? So there's certain ways where administrators can lock down certain capabilities in different ways, and that's there for a reason. But it can also, for the new user, or especially a new user in an enterprise within their account, they may not be clear on all the rules and regs and why something behaves a particular way. So yeah, I think that's completely fair.
All right. I want to be mindful of time too. If we can go to the final section, which is how to lay out your mural.
Yeah, this is going to be rich with feedback.
This
I
is
am
a big
sure.
one. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna ask people to follow me, or if you guys are in the mural, you can actually click on my avatar and you'll be able to see what I'm seeing. So let's go through. Yeah, let's. I'm just gonna take a minute to scan, and I think Shane probably added these lovely icons on the side.
So that there's still some people hanging out on the previous section. Maybe you could summon everyone.
Okay, yeah, let me summon everyone. So heads up, I'm going to summon you. So you're on the how to lay out your mural. Here we go. Boom. All right, so let's tell us a little bit about crew. Start typing in, review this and say, like, what do you like about this proposal Amelia's sharing? What are some challenges we might face? And then, yeah, how might we build on Amelia's proposal for what should actually go into a template? Oh, and someone also made a handy area for themselves or for someone else. That's really nice.
Pro tip.
Yeah, that's clutch. So I like the final, first of all, the finishing touch would be to lock everything. That's a very common error that I make, is forgetting to lock things down, and then people move stuff. And it's just like, meh. But then it's also hard because a cool feedback feature would be if we're trying to get new people to use templates, I don't know if we are, maybe they don't know about locking and unlocking. And so they're like, I just can't use this.
Well, yeah, there was a comment. Just Jonathan was noticing that many people are using the green notes kind of to promote new ideas and solution, and typically the intent of the green note is to provide feedback where an existing idea can be built on. That's really, it's the feedback to say this, but yes, and a particular idea. But it's inevitable. Part of looking at this is you have new ideas that come into your head. So it's kind of unavoidable, but you need to be careful about solutions are a little bit different than giving feedback on maybe an underutilized feature, something that could be built on that already exists there. So so sometimes it's helpful even to introduce like another note color, like yellow. Like if you just have like a new great idea, with something that is a solution, then you can flag it in a way where people can say this is not necessarily this is not something I need to capture about doubling down on something that's working good, fixing that something's broken, or amping up something that's just not quite shiny enough yet, and then totally new ideas, right?
Okay. I just added yellow notes around it.
Cool, yeah.
I was also trying to help our anonymous rabbit, was like frantically trying to put sticky notes on an area, and I was trying to use the absorb tool, the absorb thing, and it was a little bit a little bit tough.
Areas are their own animal. Once you get onto them, they're super powerful, but they don't mimic anything in the physical world, really.
Right.
So you don't have an instinctive metaphor for like there's nothing in my actual world that does what they do. So like the way they do it, you know.
So, and I want to make sure too, Jonathan made a great point, and I think it actually will take us into the asynchronous, like the not real-time feedback thing. So he said, all of these are lumped together. So how are we supposed to give feedback on specific areas, and they're all lumped together? So a good practice, I think, would be to, if let's say we wanted to get feedback when we're not in real time, would be to move these to separate sections of the space.
Yeah. It's interesting because the way this is presented, we're actually giving feedback on a tremendous number of ideas here, because each one of these purple notes is in and of itself its own concept that might be partnered with 2, 4, 7 other ideas around a big theme. And so you could almost run a critique session that focuses on each one of those collections of 2, 3, or 4 items,
Yeah.
and really have a thoughtful discussion about, okay, so now we're talking about this aspect of the layout versus that aspect of the layout versus sharing versus this. And so it's almost you have to think about how you're going to structure and guide people through a logical way of rallying around a concept and giving feedback around that concept, as opposed to, here are 70 pieces of data and just, go to it,
Yeah. And this is a little bit, it looks like, from zooming out on it, it looks a little bit insane.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to, and what I did while you were sharing that, Mark, is try to spread them out so that people who are on the mural giving feedback are able to point to specific pieces. And Linda's like, where did it go? Yeah, Linda, I did move it around on the mural. So apologies for, maybe I'll ask you guys to follow me so you can see I did move the list to different parts so you guys could give feedback on specific aspects.
And like I said, this whole process, we talked briefly yesterday, and I said, well, I think it'll work. I think this is how it's going to work. But that's what I love about the session, is not only, Amelia, I'm sure you can give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on whether you're getting useful feedback. I'm guessing that, okay. So I'm guessing the end result, like your successful outcome for you, is you're getting tons of feedback that's useful for the job you actually have to do. Successful outcome for me is I'm getting to experiment in real time with a method like critique with people that actually have a microphone and people that don't have a microphone, and learning about how to set this thing up. So you have to, experimenting is part of it. And we had an idea and maybe it was a little half baked, but the cool thing is, by going through the process, we're now a little more present to the physicality of how this all works with the audience and the way we have it structured.
Yeah, no, I think a big aha moment for me was the fact that we don't have people able to give that verbal feedback.
Yeah.
It kind of mimics a session where you can't have people do it in real time.
Yeah, it does.
Right. So you have to be, Sabina said in the chat, you have to be very judicious about the scope of your feedback and what you want people to share, and then give them guidance and actually space on the mural to do that. Just so illuminating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It didn't occur to me until we actually jumped into it that each one of those purple boxes represents an idea and a concept, and sometimes
it's a point in a checklist.
Yeah.
It's basically a long checklist with things that's helpful to think about when you design your own templates.
Totally.
Sorry if I wasn't clear enough about that.
Oh, no, that's good. I'm thinking about, in many ways, critique is often used, well, in a design setting, it's like, here's my wireframe for the new landing page on the website, and critique is around that concept, right? And now here we actually have many, many, many concepts. There's a lot of aspects. And so I think the setting the scope and guiding people through these smaller chunks and really clarifying questions. It's almost like you can't deliver the brief on your whole list of all the purple. I'm saying I'm learning this in through this process. You can't give all of that purple concept and say, okay, now give me feedback on all of it. You almost need to break it down and do several iterations, mini critiques on each little individual point to be able to capture the feedback effectively.
Mm-hmm. Does it help? Maybe what we can do, especially people who are watching, to go through while the rest of our group is, I'm just zooming out to show everyone working, to go through in one of these and verbally give feedback. So I'm looking at this one on a clear flow for example. So Amelia, you said that it would be helpful to have a clear flow, clear instructions, know, kind of what is guiding enough. Having facilitator instructions. So as a guide, what are some things that we like about this? And Mark, feel free to. I don't want to take over. You're the design critique master in this.
No,
one,
that's
so.
good. Well, 1 foot in the hole. I am actually queuing up our feedback in the chat channel. So.
Yeah. Cool. Then I'll do this. In terms of if I wear the hat of the person who likes this, I think it's important to show visual flow in a mural in terms of a template, so I know the steps in the process. The challenge that I've had with experience doing templates that have a flow is you get the sense of like if you change the flow, it's wrong. Like if you do it a different way, it's quote unquote wrong. When in reality, it's simply a guide, right? And maybe building this idea would be providing alternatives for somebody to say like this is a guide for step 1, 2, 3, 4, but an alternative is an alternative to this would be saying, you could use this method, or if something happens, do this instead. So that's my thought on it. Daniela, did you have anything about templates or this what Amelia proposed here? Anything that you would add as things you like, things you would change that you think would be challenging?
I'm trying to think of examples and what clear instructions might look like. To be clear for different types of people, because it's not the same if you have a group of designers using a template that if you have a group of accountants maybe that never saw a template before. I think those might be some of the challenges. And so clear might be different for different groups, what clear means. But also I think if the instructions are too clear for me would be as simple as possible, like almost like bullet points and not many explanations. When I see a template that has a lot of writing, a lot of explanation, it kind of bores me before I even use it. But that might be just...
Yeah, and I think it also, I agree, to a point, it is like that, what is guiding enough? It's so hard and so relative because, I agree, sometimes I'm like, this seems so really complicated, but then I also need to know alternatives.
Right. Someone say multilingual here. And I think the one thing about a template, it should be visual enough to be understandable across languages, hopefully, ideally. Maybe use icons instead of so many words. That could be an idea.
Awesome. All right. So as we get to the end of our time today, I really appreciate those of you who did join the mural and share feedback for our group, because we as the company are also trying to improve our templates, and we want to make sure that you guys have some clear thoughts on how to improve templates. So stay tuned for some updates and continued work. And if you're interested in providing more feedback, Amelia is eagerly looking for it as well. So let us know if we can reach out to you for more insights. And for Amelia, for Mark, for Daniela, any thoughts or advice on things we would do for asynchronous, additional tips for asynchronous feedback, or if we're going to ask for other teammates to do this, but they weren't in this session?
As a facilitator, if I I'd be mindful of who am I inviting to give feedback, and be respectful of their time and all that kind of stuff. But using @mention and comments would probably be a really useful way to draw people's attention. So if people are busy, they may not be able to give feedback on everything. So maybe dividing and conquering, having a couple people and asking them just to really focus on one area or the other, and using @mention. So when they see the link in their email or in their Slack integration or whatever, and they click, they'll go right to where they need to be focused to give feedback. I think that'd be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think actually
very, very clear instructions on like what color Post-it notes are you using for what. So when they get into this mural and it's already, you know, crazy enough as it is, and the new person comes like later today and sees this and they go like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to provide feedback on? So maybe some housekeeping after the live session would be good before you invite somebody else to collaborate asynchronously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm probably gonna create a new version of this mural with just the checklists laid out in a way with more spacing between them, while still keeping the flow that you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that point, Daniela, because it is, people often forget, it's like, oh, great, done, I got my feedback. It's like the amount of time it takes to get the feedback it's 1-to-1 or even 1-to-2, the amount of time it takes to synthesize all of this and make sense out of it. So it's a gift, but the gifts have all got to get unwrapped, and you got to write thank you notes. And there's lots of work to do once you've been given all these gifts. So
yes, definitely.
This is a lot of useful feedback to go through afterwards. Super helpful.
Good. Yeah. And it's great that we can have this community to help and give this feedback openly and willingly to us as well. So for everybody, if this is your first time on Backstage Pass, thank you for joining. We mentioned that the session topic changes every week. So we'll have a different topic and even a different way that we address that topic in a different way. So every session is an experiment, basically. And it's fun to see what happens in every session, right? So I will send the recording, and also this mural. You can come in and view the mural after the session as well, so that you can hopefully get inspiration for your own work. But basically, it's fun to have the space to experiment with you guys. And if you have any questions, we'll hang out for a little longer. But if you need to jump off, we recognize that you guys are busy too. So thank you for joining, and really have a wonderful weekend and stay healthy.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend. Stay safe.
Yeah.